Hi, I'm Robert Fitzpatrick. Thank you for attending this masterclass on rejection, overcoming rejection. Really hope you get a lot out of this. Let me just give you a little bit of background on me. As I said, my name is Robert Fitzpatrick. I'm a mindset coach. I help entrepreneurs and highly motivated people overcome rejection long enough to get results. And as we go through this masterclass, you're going to learn a little bit more about what rejection is. You're going to learn how to put together a design, is what I call it, a rejection kit, so that you can handle rejection in the moments where it counts, so that you can move forward on what it is you want to do. And you're going to learn not only that, but how to refine your process so you can take what you're learning and apply it so that you can keep that momentum going, so that you can start and continue to get the results that you're ultimately looking for, right? If you can't apply any of this, then it doesn't matter. So this course is for people that really want to take their game to the next level, that want to take their business, their life, their relationships to the next level, because rejection is prevalent in all of those areas, right? And so what we're going to be covering in this course is just basic knowledge around rejection, and how you can use the tools that I'm going to teach you in your everyday life and in your businesses and things such as that. So like I was saying, my name is Robert Fitzpatrick. I'm a mindset coach. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, master's degree in sociology, but that's really not what qualifies me to teach this course. What qualifies me to teach this course is my direct experience with rejection. Right? Like when as a child, when I was growing up, I was always the shortest person, the smallest person in the class. Oftentimes I would get rejected by the girls. Oftentimes I would get rejected, just when I wanted to play basketball. People, no, I don't want to pick him. He too short, even though I was better than him. He too short. He can't ball, right? So, and of course, those are just small examples. But as I was growing up, I realized that I wasn't better than anyone, but that my ability to overcome rejection because of the stereotypes or the limits people would put on me, that's what really gave me a step up, is because I would see people that maybe were more talented, that had more skills or whatever, but they weren't better than me because they weren't able to overcome rejection. As soon as they ran into that wall, they give up. But when you grow up short and you grow up small, but you grow up knowing that you're still valuable, you have to overcome rejection. And this is why I think a lot of people don't have this skill of overcoming rejection, is because one, they don't put themselves in positions to get rejected. And two, when they do get rejected, they go back into their comfort zone and they kind of stay there, right? Or three, they get rejected, but they don't process it, and they try to trick themselves into believing that they weren't actually rejected. And then when it's too much, when it's can't make up any excuses, can't blame anyone, can't put it on anything else, then they buckle. But we're going to get through all of that with this master class today. So what I want you to do is I want you to take out pen, paper, pencil, all that great stuff. You're going to want to take notes on this. I've drawn a little bit of a diagram back here just to give you some context, just to give you a visual, something to look at. I'm going to go into more detail as we siphon through all of the information on here. So what I want to start with, and where I think many people should start with, and this is beyond rejection, just anything in life. When you're starting something new or you're trying to solve a problem, you need to define, okay? So what we're going to start out doing is defining what is rejection, right? What is rejection? Because we hear so many different definitions. We hear so many different stories of when people got rejected. So I'm going to give a definition that I use of rejection. Rejection is simply you are pretty much, you don't feel like you're being accepted by the group, right? You don't feel like you're being accepted by the group or a person, right? And in many times, it's a group, and people don't like to admit it, right? People are, oh, I don't care about nobody else. All I care about is my opinion. That's BS, right? We are humans. We have evolved to want to be accepted by the group. And in our current society, there is not just one group. There are multiple groups. There's family. There's your work group. There's maybe you got a Pilates group. Maybe you got a gym group. Maybe you got, maybe you got the group you go out and party with. Whatever group it is. Your professors, your peers, your higher ups, whatever group it is, right? You need to learn how to get rejected by this group and still keep moving forward. So, what is rejection? When we break it down, outside of, yes, it's not being accepted by the group or a person, but at its core, it's an emotional response, right? When you get rejected, there tends to be an emotional response that goes along with it. So, let's just give an example. I like to use examples. Let's say you're interviewing for a job, right? You're interviewing for a job, and you do great. You get through the interview, everything's good, and you go into this job expecting that they're going to pay you $50,000 a year, right? You go in expecting you're going to get $50,000 a year, and they say, well, your resume looks good, you're qualified, we would love to have you. This position is starting out at $40,000 a year. This is a dilemma, right? Some people may start feeling rejected. Like, oh, they're not accepting me. They're only offering me $40,000, right? There goes the emotional response. And this is why, especially with people coming out of college and you're getting your first job, a lot of people are afraid to negotiate for a higher pay, right? Because they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to tell someone what they want. They don't want to say, no, I'm not taking $40,000. I need more. And they know they need more, but they won't say it because they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to ask for something and someone tell them no. So what do people do? They just accept the salary they're given. They're unhappy with it, but they'd rather be unhappy than be rejected, right? And they don't want to be rejected because of this emotional response, right? When we get rejected, there's an emotional response that's in us where, we may feel hurt, we may feel sad, and we may feel angry, all of these feelings. And if you don't know how to control these, that's definitely not the best way to negotiate. If you feel hurt, if they say 40,000 and you feel hurt by that, or you start getting sad, or you start getting nervous and anxious because they don't see you the way that you see you, then it's going to be difficult for you to negotiate your pay, right? And so this is one of the reasons why, if you're looking for a higher pay, if you're looking to negotiate, you need this course. You need this course because what I'm going to teach you how to do is I'm going to teach you how to look rejection in the face and overcome it so that you can have those tough conversations in the moment. I'm going to teach you how to use negotiation skills so that you are able to get what it is you want and keep a clear mind when you start feeling like, okay, this is a little much. They're not respecting me the way that I want to be respected. They're rejecting me, right? So understand that rejection is an emotional response. And from a biological perspective, this makes sense because humans are biologically meant to live in groups, right? And before Facebook and the internet, and we have construction of homes and all this stuff, and AC and laws for landlords not being able to do this and banks not being able to do this. Before all of that stuff, we had to live in groups out in the wild, and we had to hunt for food, and we had to protect our group from outsiders. If you were a lone human, you probably would not survive long. So you needed the group. It was a biological necessity to be a part of a group, and being a part of a group means that the other group members have to accept you, right? This is before prisons. This is before CSI and DNA. Like, the other group members had to accept you, which means there was a biological drive for you to want to be accepted by the group. And this same drive exists in us today, where we want to be accepted by the group, whether you realize it or not, whether you accept it or not. Humans in general want to be accepted by the group. Now, whatever group that is, like I was saying earlier, that depends on your lifestyle and all these things. If you're in business, there's a group of people that you want to accept, your product. If you're selling something, if you're in college, you want your professors to accept the work that you turn in. You may want your peers to accept you in their group when you guys go out and turn up, or whatever you do, go to football games, right? So there is a group that many people want to be accepted by. We don't come out and say it, because that's weak, right? We don't want to feel weak. We don't want to feel like we have to be accepted by a group. But this is essential to human survival, and it has been since humans were around. And so this emotional response is letting you know, hey, this group that you want to be a part of, there's something that's not aligning, right? It's an alarm, like how your phone has the notification ding. That's what this is. That's what that emotional response is. It's an alarm letting you know, hey, something's up. Something's up. And where many people mess up is when they get this emotional response, they shut down instead of looking at what they can do better, how they can move forward, how they can progress, how they can grow. And we're going to get to that, right? So that's the first one, emotional response. Second part of rejection is what's called a sociometer. A sociometer, and this is important, write this down, sociometer, and Google this, really take extensive notes on this. This is pretty much your group value, right? How much value are you to the group? And when you don't feel valuable to the group, this can make you feel hurt, make you feel rejected, right? And here's the thing. If you're starting a business or you want to make a change, there's a group that already exists, and many people are looking at this group on social media, which is not a good idea, but there's a group that already exists that you're going to want to get into, that you want to be accepted by, right? If you're trying to sell, if you're a real estate agent, for example, and you're trying to get people to work with you so that you can help them buy and sell real estate, your group then are people who own real estate or people that want to buy real estate. That is the group that you want to be accepted by. So when your sociometer says, okay, they told me no. I asked them if they wanted to work with me. They told me no. So now your sociometer is like, okay, well, they're not accepting me. And then it goes down, right? You don't feel as valuable to that group. So when you don't feel as valuable to that group, a lot of people turn and they run the other way. Oh, they don't accept me. I'm just going to go and, do whatever. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. They don't accept me. But why should they? Why should you be accepted by a group right away? This is a fantasy, right? This would be the equivalent of you, like if this was ancestral times. If you were a part of a group over here and, y'all had your thing going, and then there was some random group you've never even been a part of before, and you just left your group and went to this other group. They don't know you like that. They don't know you. But you want to be a part of what they got going on, and you don't even know what this group is about. You don't know what they want, what their expectations are. You don't know what type of value you would need to bring to be a part of this group, but you want to be a part of this group, and you don't want no one to stop you at the door and say, hey, wait up. Let me ask you a few questions, right? Let me see if you should even be in this group. And that's what life does. When you try something new, there's a certain group of people that you need to be accepted by in order to get into that circle, in order to get the things that you want. But you want to skip the hard work. You want to skip the part of getting to know the group. Now you just want the results, right? You just want to buy a membership, right? Because that's what we're taught. You want to start working out 24-hour fitness, you just buy a membership and you in. But in a lot of instances in life and the things that you want, you can't buy a membership. You're going to have to put the work in. And even if you could buy it, a lot of people don't have the money to buy their way into something, to buy the relationships, right? And so one of the things that you have to realize is that there's a certain standard in whatever group you're trying to be a part of or be accepted by. And if your sociometer is going down, but you don't have the understanding that this is normal for a certain time period, then you're going to want to quit. Because you're going to feel rejected, and then you're going to get the emotional response, and it's going to be negative, and you're not going to want to keep doing it. So what do? You need to understand what the expectations are of this group that you're trying to be a part of, or that you're trying to tap into. You need to understand the expectations so that when they say, well, wait a minute, we don't know if we want you here, then you can say, okay, well, what do I need to do to be a part of this group? What do I need to do to tap into this group, right? But you're so focused on you and not getting rejected that when people are telling you why they're rejecting you, you're just hearing the rejection. I know I'm talking to someone. You're just hearing the rejection because you're in your feelings. And you're in your feelings because they're telling you what they want, but you're so focused on not getting rejected. You're so focused on what you want. You're being selfish because you want to be a part of a group that you haven't done anything or put any work in and earned your way into that group. And this is why many people fail when they get into business and they fail in relationships, is because when you get into a relationship, someone may be telling you what they want, but you feel rejected. Instead, if you listen to what they want, then you could decide whether you want to move forward with them or not. There's no reason to take it personal. That's what they want. But you're so focused on not being rejected, not getting that feeling, because now, guess what happens? When you get rejected and you get in your feelings, now all the other stuff you haven't dealt with comes up. And that's the real problem. The problem is not that you got rejected. The problem is you got rejected and then you got in your feelings. And when you get in your feelings, you don't know how to control your emotions. And so because you don't know how to control your emotions, you start thinking about this from 6th grade. And that when they called you ugly over here and they called you short over here. And when you failed over here and you failed over there. And then you put this big old conclusion together. You ain't used the scientific method or nothing. You just put this whole conclusion together about why you are a failure and about why this rejection right here is indicative and is representative of your whole life. Right? You see how chaotic that is? You see how dangerous that is? How if you do that day in and day out and day in and day out, how negative your life can be? All you need to do is understand sociometer, right? And your emotional response to that. When you add value to the group, they may not see it at first, but it's your responsibility to check your emotions long enough for your sociometer to go up. Because what happens? You try to do something at first and they don't trust you. You get into real estate. They don't trust you. You ain't sold the property yet. You don't have no proof. Right? You start an online business, an online coaching business. They don't trust you. You don't have no reviews. So you need to be able to weather the storm of not being accepted long enough to start getting accepted. Do you have what it takes? Are you willing to do that? These are questions that you need to ask yourself. You need to be able to get rejected long enough to get results. Third, when we're defining rejection, again, and just to review, we have the emotional response. Rejection is an emotional response. Sociometer, your value in the group. Where do you see your value in the group? Do you see yourself being able to increase it? Or is it decreasing? And what are the reasons why? You need to be able to weather the storm to get that data. Third, spectrum. Rejection is a spectrum, right? I still feel rejected at times, but the difference is when I feel rejected, I keep going. And this is what you need to understand, is that there's different sensitivities to rejection. Some people are like, oh, I just want to get rid of rejection all around. And those same people are probably going to be failures, because the only way to truly gain success is to get rejected. You're a tank, right? If you were a tank, rejection is the armor. You need that armor to be able to protect you so that the person inside of the tank can drive that tank where it needs to go and shoot that bullet thing out and do whatever it needs to do. But you need that armor. You're being able to handle rejection. That is your armor, right? And so when you build up your armor, you're able to take a hit so that you can keep going and complete the goal. Right? The goal is not to get rid of rejection. The goal is to stand up to rejection and say, nah, you're not going any further. Right? You done had your way so far, but you're not going any further. So understand that rejection is on a spectrum. Right? So just because you feel highly emotional when you get rejected now does not mean in the future that you will. It gets better. But here's what they don't tell you. And here's where most people get it wrong and where most people are failing at. They try to circumvent rejection, but they don't realize the only way to overcome rejection is to get rejected over and over and over again. You're trying to overcome rejection by not getting rejected, and that's not how it goes. That's like trying to get better at being in a relationship, but you avoid being in a relationship. That's not how it goes. You want to get better at basketball, but you don't want to play basketball. That's not how it goes. In order for you to get better at being rejected, you need to be rejected. What does that mean? That means you don't put yourself in comfortable positions when you're trying to overcome rejection. You go right at it. You go right at it. If you're looking for a job, shoot, put some applications in places and just go there and get the interview and throw out a crazy number. No, I want 70,000, even though you know it's 50. Throw out, have fun with it. Go get rejected so that you can learn. You don't have to go in there all serious all the time. You need to get rejected. Why? Because they're not going to respect you just because you do what they say. They're not going to respect you just because they're paying you less than what you could have got. They're not going to respect you because of that. Right? When you're trying to be a part of a group and be accepted, they're not going to respect you because you're just agreeable with them and you don't really say what you think and what you feel. Part of adding value is your personality. And I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. A lot of people are scared to get rejected because they know that they've been living fake too long. Right? You have to hear me. I know I'm talking to somebody. You've been living fake for so long that when you try to be your real self and get rejected, you get that emotional response. You don't feel a part of the group. So what do people do? They act fake because it gets them membership into the group, but it doesn't get them the table at the group that they wanted, right? It doesn't get them a table in the group where they wanted. So in other words, you did what you had to do to get into the restaurant. But when you got into the restaurant, you realized you can't even order nothing off the menu because you don't even make that type of money. You faked your way into this restaurant and pretended that you could afford it, but now you sitting down and you looking at the menu and you unhappy because you can't even afford what's on there. Right? People go on vacation. People go on vacation all the time, but they get on vacation and they upset the whole time because they spending money here and spending money there and they worried and stuff. Like you thought you was going on vacation. You had all the things that could get you into the plane and get you to your destination, but you couldn't even have a vacation because you were so worried, right? This is what I'm talking about with rejection. It's on a spectrum. You need to get to a point to where you are focusing on what you want and you are willing to deal with rejection to get there. Do not take the easy way out and think that because you're not getting rejected that you're winning. Do not take the easy way out and say, oh, well, I'll just play it safe and be comfortable. And then if I do that, I'll have everything I want. Because guess what? At a certain point, you're going to run into somebody like me or somebody out there that's not afraid of getting rejected, who's less talented than you, skillful than you, knowledgeable than you. And they're going to be living the life that you want to live. Not because they're better, not because they're smarter, not because of anything other than the fact that they were able to handle rejection and you were not. All right, so now that we've defined it, a lot of people may be saying, well, what can we do about it, Robert? What can we do? What can we do? I feel rejected. Like I feel you. Like I feel you. I don't want to be fake anymore. I don't want to walk around and always be on eggshells. And I want to be able to go after what it is that I want and weather the storm long enough to start getting results. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you start getting results, that rejection is still going to sting a little bit, but now you have proof that it's worth it. When you first start in something, you may not have proof that it's even going to work. So on top of being rejected and feeling that negativity, you don't even know if it's going to work. When you start getting results, now you know it's worth it. Right? Now you know it's worth it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel when you start getting results. And this is why you need to handle rejection, overcome rejection long enough to get the results. Because when those results start kicking in, there's a different type of confidence. There's a different type of confidence when you know, right? When you know that this rejection is going to pay off, but you got to have vision, right? You have to have vision. You have to understand and overstand that rejection is a part of it and that you will overcome it. And that's what we're going to get you. That's what we're going to lay the foundation today. All right. So 2, after we define it, design. So we have define it and design. What do I mean by design? You need a rejection first aid kit, right? They have first aid kits for when you get injured. Let's say you get a cut or something. It has, gauze, it has Band-Aids, the alcohol wipes to sanitize it so you don't get infected. It may have a needle in case you need some stitches. It may have a defibrillator in case you need to get your heart pumping again. It may have some oxygen, whatever. There's a first aid kit, right, that they have for something when something happens to your physical body. You need a first aid kit for when you go through this emotional response after getting rejected, right? You need a first aid kit. So some people will say, okay, well, what does that first aid kit look like? I'm going to tell you. 1, you can get coaching, right? You can get coaching. And this is why I got into coaching, is because coaching does not necessarily focus on how to deal with emotions. Coaching is focusing on how do you get what you said you wanted. What do you want and how are you going to get it? Bump how you feel. What do you want? And one of the ways that you can overcome rejection is by focusing on what you want. When you get rejected and people get in their feelings, they tend to focus on what's going bad, what they don't want. I don't want to get rejected. When you're going through coaching, even though you feel emotional and you're rejected, that coach is going to be able to say, okay, you may feel rejected, but what is it that you want? What are you going to do? Okay, what's the plan? What is so difficult for you about being rejected? Okay, what's a time that you rejected and you succeeded? How is rejection holding you back? If you give in to your rejection over the next 5 years, what is your life going to look like? In 10 years, will you be able to look at yourself and be happy if you didn't overcome rejection? We're going to be able to get in there and dig deeper and say, What do you want and how are you going to get it? And what are you going to do about rejection? Because it's normal. So coaching, that put that in your first aid kit, right? Put that in your first aid kit. 2, education like this, learning about rejection. See, a lot of people think that they understand rejection, but when you get a different perspective around it and you're able to define it and look at it for what it is, an emotional response based on your need, your biological need to be accepted by a group, right? Then we can start doing something about it. When you have education and you understand it, when that emotional response kicks in, guess what? You'll be able to reference that education. I know this. I got educated. I know this is an emotional response. And now because you're aware of it, you're not as anxious about it. You're educated on it. You know about it. You can, like, to give you an example, if you know about cars and something goes wrong with your car and you know about it, you may not be as anxious if you know about how to fix it than a person like me who I may not know what to happen. I don't know how to fix it. So I'm freaking out now. How much is this going to cost? What if I take it in and they rip me off and tell me that something else just to get more money? When am I going to be able to drive again? If you know about that car, you'll be able to say, okay, this is a serpentine belt. That serpentine belt costs $35. That's a 1-2 hour job. I'm going to need this tool, that tool, this tool, that tool, and I'll be back on the road by 4 p.m. Right? That's the difference when you have education, is that you can identify, make a plan, and execute that plan and move forward. When you don't have the education, it can be difficult to make a plan because you may not even know what you're dealing with. And then that creates anxiety because you don't want to try something new. You don't know what you're dealing with. And the fact that you have to try something new or do something you're not informed about, that can trigger rejection as well. And this is why you need a rejection first aid kit. Is because you need to be able to patch up the emotional cuts and bruises and stuff like that when you're going through the rejection. That's when it's important. You need to keep on going. You need to weather through it so that you can get those results and get the confidence to keep pushing forward. As human beings, a lot of us need those physical results, that first sale, right? We need that proof that things are working. If it's in your relationship, you need that proof that they're changing or you're changing or things are getting better. We need that proof. And for a lot of people, it's hard to think in the abstract and weather rejection long enough to get results because they don't have proof that the hard work is even going to pay off. This is what education can get you. Normalizing rejection, letting you know, like, hey, you're not the only one dealing with this. This is a biological thing, right? So, exercise. When you exercise, you feel good. It releases endorphins. All of these great things helps with blood flow, helps you focus better, helps with attention, just helps you be a more productive person. And oftentimes we neglect certain areas of our life and then that piles up and we think it's something over here, but it's really this. And it's like, had we have dealt with this, then this may not even be an issue because our mindset wouldn't even go there. When you exercise, your body feels better. You're giving your body something that it needs, which is proper circulation. You're keeping your weight down. You're keeping your heart rate healthy. You're keeping your vital organs healthy. You're releasing chemicals in your brain that help you think clear. And when you can think clear and more openly, then that means that you're open to solutions. So when you get rejected, you're not just so narrowly focused on the rejection. You focused on, okay, I got rejected, but what did I say I wanted? Okay, what can I do about this? Is this a me thing? Am I doing everything right? I just need to keep going. Like, what are some solutions here? Like, there's a theory in positive psychology called, I think it's called Broaden and Build. Pretty much when you're able to broaden your perspective, then you're able to build upon the fact that you broadened it, because you're able to broaden and think of more solutions and be more optimistic, and then you're able to build off of that. And where so many people fail with exercise is that they don't realize how much exercise actually affects their mental health. They don't understand that when you exercise, that you're getting your body active, and you're putting positivity into your body because you just feel better. You have more energy. All of these things affect how you're going to respond to rejection. If you don't have the energy to deal with being rejected, and you're just like, all right, I ain't got the time to be rejected. I ain't got the energy. Now, this is where the negativity kicks in at. So exercise is important, man. Positive psychology. I studied this in college, and I use this in my coaching. Positive psychology, and I'll go on record and say this. Positive psychology, I think, is one of the greatest things that has happened in the last 20, 30 years in terms of research in the psychological field. Positive psychology is I love it because it's very practical and applicable to the everyday person. You don't have to have a degree to be able to understand this stuff. You don't have to do a great deal of research to be able to start implementing some of these things. And the research on this is so crazy because when we talk about positive psychology, just for example, just being mindful awareness, Google that, write that down, research that. Mindful awareness. If you can just become aware mindfully and just learn to live with instead of judging, you would be so much better. If you can learn to live with rejection instead of making a judgment or a value call when you are rejected, you'd be able to get over it. Because what do people do? They get rejected and then they start thinking, I ain't nothing. I ain't never been nothing. I'll never do it. I'll never achieve it. They start judging the rejection. They start judging the feeling. And when they judge the feeling, then they start believing the judgment that they just made. Positive psychology will teach you, okay, I feel rejected. I feel hurt. I'm aware of that. I'm aware that I feel hurt. Okay, let me write down my feelings right now. Let me write down what's going on. I feel rejected, and I feel rejected because they told me no. And then you're able to write that down and get it over with and then move on. Or, you know what? I feel rejected, but I'm also aware that my life is pretty good. I'm also aware that I set goals. I'm also aware that rejection is a normal part of the the journey to success. I'm aware. When you become more aware of yourself, when you become more aware of the group, when you become more aware of what the group wants, then you can learn to live with the rejection instead of judge the rejection. So that's important. And these are just a few things that you can do for your first aid kit, your rejection first aid kit. And you know, as we get into more stuff deeper in the course and other lessons, we're really going to get into how to design this first aid kit, right? Because this is important. So many people try to do it alone. So many people try to do it just by intuition, and they don't want to do the research. They don't want to invest in themselves. And guess what? And I'm going to go there. A lot of people are afraid to invest in their self because they've constantly looked to other people for their sense of belonging and self-esteem. I know I'm cutting some people. A lot of people don't know who they are enough to solve their own problems because they haven't invested in themselves. You've been too busy trying to look good for your boss. You've been too busy trying to get that degree so someone would hire you. You've been too busy trying to find that person so that your parents wouldn't think that you were a loser. You've been too busy trying to date this type of person because your friends would make fun of you if you dated the person you really wanted to. You've been too busy doing all these things for other people that you never took the time to invest in yourself. And then what happens is you go ahead and you get rejected. And when you get rejected, you don't know how to deal with it because you haven't invested in yourself enough, right? It's like if you were a car that took gas, because I know there's electric cars now, so I gotta say that. But if you're a gasoline car, right? If you don't have gas in there, the car's not going anywhere. But what a lot of people do is they don't want to put gas in themselves so that they can go anywhere. And the gas in yourself is personal development, coaching, reflecting, mindful awareness, meditation. All of these things you're investing in yourself. You don't want to spend money on that though. You'll spend money on clothes, stuff you put on you, but you won't spend money on a course. Some people, right? You won't spend money on coaching. You won't spend money on a book. You won't spend money investing in yourself. And that's why a lot of people can't deal with rejection, is because they haven't put anything in themselves to be able to fight off rejection. You don't have a first aid kit. We getting deep. I know we getting deep, but all right. Number 3, right? So we have define, design, and refine. This is important because this is where you take an active role in your growth. The first 2 were just defining and then putting in a plan. But refining, this is where the growth takes place because you have the data. You have the data from, remember when you felt that emotional response and you research and you look deeper at like, okay, what is my value in the group, right? You remember that? You remember that you then realize that rejection is on a spectrum, and that as you get rejected more, your sensitivity to it will go down and you'll be able to weather that storm. When you have those emotional responses and you're able to look at the value that you have in the group that you want to be a part of or to accept you, and then you're able to design a rejection first aid kit so that you can deal with all of this stuff, you're collecting data, right? You're collecting data. Don't let that data go to waste. Don't let it go to waste. Data is the new gold. All these companies out here, they want your data, they want your information. Why? So that they know, again, how to be a part of you, how to get you to spend money with them, how to get you to work with them, how to get you to partner with them, how to get you to invest in them. But you don't want to take the data on you so that you can invest in you? You know how much money someone would pay to understand what type of emotion you went through when you got rejected? You don't know how much money they would pay to understand how much of a group or what makes you feel like you're a part of the group. You don't understand how much money that people would pay for that. And see, this is where I say you have to invest in yourself. Because if you're not investing in yourself, then you don't see this information as valuable. So this is where you really put the work in refinement. When you can refine and take in all the data and collect it, and then over here organize it. And this is where you ask the tough questions. Okay, what worked? What actually worked? I don't want to hear about all the things that didn't work. What worked? When you tried to go and be a part of that group, when you tried to sell that product, when you tried to start this business, when you tried to initiate a change in your relationship or initiate a change in your life, what actually worked, right? Yes, you got rejected. Yes, you felt hurt. Yes, you feel sad. But what actually worked? Because we need to do more of that. We need to do more of what works. So many people focus on what didn't work, how bad it went, what could have been, what should have been, what worked. Define what worked out of this whole process. Okay? What worked? Also, what can be improved? What can be improved? Okay, so we know what worked. You know, we know what worked. We went and we negotiated for a higher pay. What worked was we said what we wanted to say, and we put that into our boss's mind that we wanted to get a higher pay. That's what worked. You know, just building up the confidence to have the conversation. Having the conversation worked. We put that out there. We put that energy out there. That worked. Okay, what can be improved upon? This is where reflection comes in at. What can be improved upon? Okay, we asked for that raise, but you know, we really didn't do it assertively. We said, oh, well, I want to get 60,000, but I might be okay with 52,000. We weren't as assertive as we would like to be. Okay, so that's what can be improved upon. Being more assertive, right? How can you take it less personal? So when they said no to you getting that raise, how can you take that less personal and realize this is not about you, this is about the energy you give off. This is about your own investment in yourself, because you need to ask yourself why someone thought that it was okay to value you less. You need to ask yourself why you're in that position to where you feel like and you think that you should be getting a certain amount and you're not getting that. Why are you in that position? And how can you take it less personal? Because when you take it less personal and you focus on the facts and what can be done about it, now we're not operating off of an emotional response. We're operating on what we can actually do to get what we want, right? So this is where, this last stage, this is where we focus on asking the tough questions, asking the questions that those answers are now our new goals. Those answers are the solutions, right? This is where we get the solutions. In order to get the solutions you want, you have to take it through a process. So many people try to skip the process. You just want the end. You just want to make something up out of thin air, right? You just want to snap your fingers and, oh, there's a solution. No, get data. Go get rejected. Get your first aid kit to deal with it so that you don't emotionally die along the way, and then refine it. Figure out what you can do better next time. But so many people don't want there to be a next time. Or if they do, they don't get to the next time because they don't want to feel the rejection the next time. But guess what? When you take it through this process and then you refine it, the next time you come around to rejection, you're not the same person as you were. You've learned something. You know what to expect now. When they tell you no, you're not taking it personally now. You looking at like, okay, why are you, hold up. I know you saying no, but why? What's going on? What can I do to get a yes? Now you're asking them questions. You're getting data from them now. Now you can focus on getting that data the second time around. At first you was too emotional. You was taking it personally. Now when they tell you no, it's like, well, how come? What can I do to get better? How can I grow? Now you realize that this is about you. This is about you growing. This is not about them rejecting you. This is about you growing so that you can eventually be accepted by the group you want to be accepted by. Because you realize that in order to get what you want, this group needs to accept you. If you're trying to sell a product, there's a certain group that needs to accept that product, accept you. You need to understand why they're not accepting you, and you need to understand what can be done about that. Because so many people try to just leave it out there in thin air and make up things and just not operate off of data. And then when they get that data, they realize this would have been so much easier if they just went through the process. Just go through the process. So, one of the most important questions you can ask after all this is, what do I want now? What do I want now? Because you may want something different after you get rejected and take it through this process. You may want something different. You may realize my goals was way too small. You may realize, okay, I understand more now. What do I want now? Because I have all this data, I have all this information. What do I want now? It's like if you got a pocket full of money, right, and you going out and shopping and you miscalculated how much things actually cost. Well, if they cost less than what you were thinking, you may want to buy different things now because you now know what your money is worth. Same thing goes with this. When you get rejected and take it through this process of defining, refining, or defining, designing, and refining, take it through that process, you may realize, okay, I'm worth more than I thought. I have more skills than what I thought. I can do more than what I had thought. So it's important to constantly ask yourself, what do I want now? Now that I've gone through the process, now that I've done the hard work, now that I've stared rejection in the face and overcame it, what do I want? Right? So, I hope you got value out of this. Let me know what you think in the comments section. If there's anything that I can cover more of. Like I said, this is kind of just an introduction into rejection. There's going to be more lessons in the course and stuff like that. This is just giving you an understanding and a foundation of what the rest of the course is going to be like. The rest of the course, we're going to be going over emotions. We're going to be getting deeper into positive psychology. We're going to be getting deeper into vulnerability. We're going to be getting deeper into how to practically apply some of the things that I'm talking about. We're going to be getting deeper into all of that stuff. And so what I really want you guys to do is just study the material that you've seen on this video, because there's more to come. And don't take this stuff lightly. In order to truly be successful and get what you want in your life, you have to be able to overcome rejection. It's not a suggestion, it's a must. It's a necessity, right? It's a necessity. You don't want to go through life wondering what could have been and just always having regret because you didn't take that step that was necessary for you to get what you want out of your one life. Your one life. All right. Till next lesson, I'm Robert Fitzpatrick. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I'm out.